are 6 million children diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or more commonly known as ADHD, in the US alone. 6 million. That's a massive number. And I bet it's safe to say that in 2021, with all the disruptions at home and at school, that number is only growing. Now, of the 6 million, how many would you say were given medications, offered counseling, and nothing else? According to the Centers for Disease Control, 77%. That's an incredibly high number, but that doesn't surprise me because that's precisely how doctors are trained to treat ADHD. As a pediatrician tasked with treating and diagnosing children, especially children diagnosed with ADHD, it struck me that even though I was giving ADHD medications, the medications controlled the symptoms for a short period of time, but the underlying behaviors remained. The inattentiveness, the hyperactivity, the sleeplessness. In my practice, I encountered many patients with similar stories of medications not controlling symptoms and parents being threatened that their children would be kicked out of school because of their behaviors. In my despair, I realized that our treatments were not really helping children improve. So I went on a journey to find out how best to take care of and treat the children in my care, how to look at and treat the child as a whole person and not simply address their behaviors. And my findings are what I want to share with you today. So it struck me that since ADHD is a brain-based disorder, maybe, just maybe, our children would benefit from learning to love their brain just the way it is. Just as we ask adults to actively engage in preventing heart disease, I believe it will be to our children's advantage to actively engage and participate in helping their brains feel better. I'd like to share a few stories with you today. So Will is a 12-year-old boy diagnosed with ADHD and also in the foster care system. He has a long history of abuse, neglect, poor sleep habits, depression, and anxiety. Will was often in trouble both at his foster home and at school. I saw Will in my office and I said to him, "Will, would you like your brain to feel better?" And his smile lit up the entire room and he said, "My brain feel better?" And I said, "Yes, because you know that your brain controls everything you do. And so when you make choices to help your brain feel better, you'll feel better." And he said, "Yes, I'd like my brain to feel better." And so he listened intently to me telling him how he needed to drink more water because his brain loved it, and how he needed to put away his phone at night because his brain loved the blue light from his phone and would interpret that to mean he needed to stay up at night. At a follow-up visit, Will was like a new kid. Will told me he was feeling better because he was sleeping better now and his behavior both at home and at school was improved. So you see, this was only the beginning of the changes I saw in Will. I referred him to trauma-based counseling, and I did not take Will off his ADHD medication, but because I addressed the whole of him and he saw himself from a brain-love lens, he took ownership and was excited about helping his brain feel better. You see, the problem is that we often look at the behaviors children exhibit without really considering if there are any other factors that could be affecting their behaviors, like trauma, nutritional deficiencies, physical and emotional, environmental concerns that might be affecting these children. But if we really love our brains, then it's imperative that we look at these factors first and then proceed on to medications and counseling. So that means that we ask the most important question: what is causing my child's behavior, not what is wrong with my child? Andrea was a 6-year-old girl with ADHD and autism. I asked her parents about her eating habits and what foods were being offered at home. And her parents were open to trying new foods like avocados and berries to help optimize her brain function. And we also discussed simple strategies to help disguise healthy foods so Andrea would be more likely to eat the foods. I was also aware that research published by the National Institute of Health indicates that children diagnosed with ADHD may have lower levels of iron, magnesium, vitamin D, and zinc, which are all critical to optimal brain function. I found she had several nutritional deficiencies, and when addressed, her behavior became less aggressive and her eating habits improved. The truth is, you really are what you eat. I have one last story to share with you. Jane was a 12-year-old girl with 6 months of inattentiveness. And when I met her mom, one of the questions I asked her was how old their home was. And mom said that since she moved into this home with her child, she, her daughter, and the dog all felt sick. And so I asked mom to take her daughter out of the home as soon as possible because I knew that persistent exposure to a physical pollutant can make changes to brain function. At a follow-up visit, mom said that black mold was found in their home and that since she removed her daughter from the home, her symptoms of inattentiveness had resolved. So you see, this is what is possible when you look at the full picture and actively engage and help children improve their health and teach them to love their brain. So, how can you help your child with ADHD improve their brain function and fall in love with their brain? Parents, spending even a few minutes each day with your child, phone-free, listening to your child, deepens that bond between you and your child, and they're more likely to listen to what you say. It's ensuring that you provide healthy meals for your child, make sure your child gets adequate sleep and exercise. And it's saying to your child, I love the way you played so nicely with Tom today, instead of the usual great job. Because the specificity of your response to their deed makes them feel valued and heard, and they're more likely to repeat the action. And parents, knowing that ADHD is a brain-based disorder and is not caused by bad parenting, but understanding that your child is actually not unfocused. Your child is actually hyper-focused on the things that they enjoy doing. And so when you recognize and build up that strength you've noticed in your child, then they are more likely to excel and thrive. I became a pediatrician and leader of a nonprofit for children in foster care because I believe that every single child, regardless of diagnosis, needs a champion. Every child needs to know they are seen, they are heard, and know they are valuable. And one of the ways to do this is by teaching children to fall in love with the health of their brain. So will you join me, starting with yourself? Will you fall in love with your brain and teach the same to the children around you at home and at school? Because when we all fall in love with safeguarding and boosting the physical health of our brain, then we will all make beneficial decisions to our optimal health. And this is the world I want to create. Thank you.